All right, so here's a sexist reviewing The Color Purple. It's amazing. It's gonna be awesome, guys.
Being a child at the time, I bought into that narrative. But it wasn't until I became an adult and began to question the things I was taught that I decided to take another look at the movie from a pro masculinist point of view. And
From a pro masculinist point of view, is that even a fucking word?
I was blown away by the lies and outright misandry the movie told. The original film
Okay, so what lies did the movie told? Do you not believe that women were raped and abused and suffered domestic abuse? I mean, do you not believe that this happened in the South? Like if I write in the story that someone got into a car crash, would you believe that that's a lie? Like would you be like it's a lie, like The Color Purple, they lied. Like no woman ever got raped. No woman ever got abused. No black woman ever got abused. No woman ever got traded for cattle. Like this is all lies.
is an account of the intimate exploitation and mistreatment of young black girls and women living in the American South at the turn of the century, as told from the perspective of a teenage girl named Celie, played by Whoopi Goldberg, who would
Okay, number one, Whoopi Goldberg played the adult version of Celie. Like, Whoopi Goldberg was in her 20s and 30s, like, back then in the 80s. So, nobody would actually, like, really jump to the conclusion that she was a freaking teenager. Celie was played by another actor when she was a teenager. And then Whoopi Goldberg played the adult version. This is not really that much of a big deal. Like, I get what he was saying, but if you're going to mess up on the little stuff, you're going to mess up on the big stuff.
tragically separated from her sister Nettie after she, at the age of 14, is forced to marry a man named Mister, played by Danny Glover, a man that was more than twice her age. And for decades, the film chronologizes Cilly's.
Well, actually, they were never married if you watch the movie. Literally, like, Whoopi Goldberg says this in the movie. They were literally never married in the movie. If you actually watch it, what happened is more or less like Mister took Whippy as his concubine. They were just banging. Well, Mister was raping Whippy night by night, but they never were married. They never was married. They never had like actual biological kids between them. Probably because, Celie had children young, so it probably destroyed her womb. Or maybe Mister pulled out. I don't know. But they never were married. They never had shared biological kids. If you actually watched the movie, I'm shocked that you didn't remember this.
Oppression under the cruel hand of her husband, and her hope that one day
Not her husband, just more or less her fuck buddy.
she'll be reunited with her sister. The movie is based on a novel of the same name by misandrist author Alice Walker. Now, the problem with all of that is
This is a lie.
none of it is true.
I mean, I guess in the sense that it's a fiction, but if you're going to say like, hey man, like he wrote that black women were raped and abused in over a 30-year period. I mean, you don't think that's true? You don't think that there was at least one black woman out of the millions of them that were raped and abused, treated badly by somebody who took her as a concubine, shit like that.
That's not how life was for black women living in the South back in the day. Because there needs to be a cultural and legal infrastructure in place that empowers black men to do that. A black
What? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's called misogyny. Any a man of any color could do misogyny. Like, what are you talking about? and it's also called domestic abuse. Do you think like the police have to like if somebody is a abuser of their like significant other, the police have to co-sign that shit? Like yeah, you could beat the bitch ass. Like usually the police doesn't get into like these situations because the woman's afraid to call the police. And you know what? I'm not much of a fan of the movie. Like, to tell you the truth, I'm not much of a fan of it. Like, there's a lot of criticisms I could bring up. And you know what? I saw the new movie, and I'm probably going to do a review on that one. But, um, I think you're taking this whole systematic thing a little too far. Like, society, even black society, was okay with um, being misogynist back then. This was the 1900s, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I get that the white man maybe wasn't like at the black man's house seeing him beat his significant other and be like, yeah, but still, it still happened. Like, they still beat him. They still like actually like still beat women. You know, white supremacy doesn't have to co-sign everything. Now, we could have an argument that maybe Mr. was a abuser of women because of white supremacy. That's it. But to throw the cat, but to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, no, no, because there was white supremacy, there was no form of domestic abuse between black women and black men. There was no rape whatsoever. Like, they had it good.
Black man can't simply employ that within his own community or family. He needs to be backed by law enforcement and the
No, he doesn't. I mean, I guess not to get arrested, he needs to be backed by law enforcement. But, there wasn't. I mean, it's not like Seeley could have gone to the cops and been like, hey, my husband's abusing me. Like, can you arrest him? Like, the cops would be like, nigger, you better get out. You better get out of our face. And if he's abusing you, then stop doing stuff to tick him off. Like, the cops would probably say that. The cops are probably mostly white. Like, the only police officers, the only people you see in public service are white people. Like when it comes to the police, when it comes to the mailman, they're all white. And they don't really give a shit about black people anyway. So if a black woman came to the white police and been like, hey, my husband's abusing me, um, they would be like, bravo, what you want me to do?
judicial system, and black men have never had that kind of systemic authority over black women. Because we, as
Even in Africa, like, till this day, like in South Sudan, there are women being sold for cattle, like, today. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if you're talking about America, I mean, you don't need that much systemic, like, powers to actually abuse and rape a person. Like, that's more or less a domestic thing. Like, the police doesn't need to co-sign that shit.
the group, both male and female, went from slavery to oppression. We were in it together.
I mean, slavery is oppression, so I don't. Are you of the opinion that slavery wasn't oppression? Like, what do you mean? Went from slavery to oppression? Slavery is oppression to begin with. It's like saying you went from rape to sexual assault. Like, shit is the same.
Now, some people will argue that white men may have had that authority over white women, and we can debate that. But the fact of the matter,
You don't need much authority to beat to beat your significant other because Seeley was never married to Mister. Like, you don't need that much authority. You just do it. And the system back then didn't really care about like women getting beaten or abused and stuff like that. Like, what type of stupid logic is this?
is if they did have that power, they did not share it with black men. They didn't give us the legal authority to control our women. So we weren't going around.
You didn't need really legal authority like that to like domestically abuse a person. Like it's already, I mean, I don't know if domestic abuse per se was illegal back then, but it was certainly frowned less than it is today. Like, and like I don't know, like it's not like it was co-signed in law like you could beat your wife if you're black, but they personally wouldn't care. Like the system would not give a damn.
Selling black girls as child brides to old men in exchange for cows and chickens. But
I mean, it's happening today in South Sudan. They're literally doing that to this day. Like, I don't know. And this nigga has a cash app. Like, who the hell would want to pay this sexist to actually just fully deny domestic abuse actually exists? Like, this nigga denies that domestic abuse actually existed in the South in the 1900s. Like, what are you talking about? Jesus.
that's the lie the movie propagates. It was something that Alice Walker made up to justify her unfounded, irrational hatred of black men. Yet,
So you think she actually invented like domestic abuse and rape and actually the manipulation of children? Like you think like before she wrote it down on The Color Purple, there was no women getting domestically abused. There was no women getting raped. There was no women getting sold for like their cattle in the South whatsoever in your mind. Like what type of stupid shit is this?